Okay, this is a long video, but I wanted to just kind of put this out there for anyone who's starting their like quilting or sewing journey like me. You're kind of picking up a new hobby. Um, and I like watching the advice that other people have and then sharing my own as I go on my journey. So I am using some pre-cut fabric here to make, I guess you could ultimately call it like a blooming square, but like a very quick version of a blooming square, using like a cutting technique that you'll see as we go through this video. I'm also going to try to link a video down below in the description that shows the technique, although there are tons of videos on YouTube and TikTok showing this technique. So some lessons I learned along the way. This was out of a pack of pre-cut 10 by 10 squares that I bought before Joann closed some time ago. But when I put my squares on the ruler, it didn't seem to me like they were exactly 10 by 10, like, or at least the cuts weren't as straight as I would like. And you'll see me do my finger like that because my little one, they love, all of my kids will come in and watch me when I'm doing this stuff, which I do not mind. But her little toes were a little too close for my comfort. So, but yeah, so I have a smaller stripology ruler that I'm trying to use to get this particular cut I was trying to get. And I was using the stripology ruler here to get those measurements. And so I'll let you kind of watch me struggle. This has got to be the most stressful part of the process for me at this point with learning how to sew and quilt, is just the cutting. And so I try to, at least right now in my journey, buy a little bit more fabric than what I think I'll need in case I mess up the cutting. So I'm still trying to learn how to use the rotary, where to place my fingers on the ruler. And there's so many things you don't think about until you're kind of going through the process and learning how to do this stuff. And you're like, oh, like my hand placement matters, and where I'm moving this, the way I'm holding my rotary cutter matters. And so I finally get this cut, and I turned the fabric so that I could get the squares that I was needing, because I was needing 2 different fabrics, 3 blocks per fabric, cut the same size so that they could face each other, and I was going to sew them together. And it'll make more sense as you watch this technique unfold, literally. And what I'll say before we get to the end is, when I was done making these squares, I realized that I should try to learn how to do some basic foundation paper piecing, because I've seen some similar projects with foundation paper piecing, and I really liked those projects, and I pretty much have all the tools necessary to do that. And so hopefully I'll be able to show you some beginner foundation paper piece slash struggle sewing coming soon. And I also want to add, feel free to fast forward through some of the cutting and some of these parts of the video that seems a little long. I just thought it was important, especially if for a new person to quilting sewing, to just see that like it can be, some of this stuff can be very tedious, and it can take time to try to get the right kind of cut. And so if you feel like you're spending a long time at your cutting mat trying to get things just right, you're not alone. I imagine, like, I've only been doing this for a few months now, but I imagine that it can take quite some time to learn how to cut and cut well. And so I try to go easy on myself when it comes to the cutting. And right now I'm still working on projects that are just little projects that I'm giving myself. They're not things that I'm like actually gifting people. And I'm using some fabric that I'm practicing with, so I don't have a strong emotional attachment to the fabric. It's not assigned to a project for someone. Now, I do have some fabrics that I've already bought and some projects that I have in mind for other people that I would like to gift them. And so I'm trying to use up my practice fabrics, learn the different techniques, and then move forward with some of the projects that I want to work on for gifting. Also, some advice that I've seen online, and I thought it was worth repeating. It's always great to be able to do the same project over and over again to get better at that project. And I would agree. I'm still working on the quilting portion of my English paper piecing quilt, which hopefully I'll be able to have an update on that quilt soon. I work on it every night. But I wanted to be able to add these little side quest, as my husband calls it. He says I go on these side missions, and so this is my. I'm working on a quilting project, but I'm also on a side quest to do other types of blocks on this journey. So here you'll see that I'm trying to match these blocks together. And it's pretty sides facing each other. And then I'm going to also show you an example of a square that I did the day before using some different fabric for this particular technique. And I was very proud of myself. No, it is not perfect, but I did it. And this is my attempt at duplicating that. So I'm using pins. I watched a really good video, and again, I'll try to link that video below in the description as well. And it was, I believe it was the Sewing Channel, and this wonderful woman she was just talking about some of the tips and tricks that you should do when you're wanting to start your sewing journey, or just helps to make sewing easier for you, like using pins and ironing your fabric. And she uses starch, and so I try to apply those techniques to this particular block, and I really like how this block came out. I really didn't cut any corners. I have my iron. I did my starching before I even cut the fabric. And then you're going to see as I work on this block, I'm going to oftentimes continue to iron. The other advice she gave on the video was that we should check to make sure that our needle placement on our machine is, and our fabric is truly like a 1/4 inch, because if you're trying to achieve a 1/4 inch seam allowance, this makes sense. I will tell you, in this video, I did my best to get my needle in there, to get my ruler in there. I'm using the same Quilted Bear ruler that I used to work on my seam allowance for English paper piecing, and I was kind of sticking the needle in there, and unfortunately I don't think you can really see not the needle, but the ruler. You can't see that in this video, that I've got the ruler in there, and I'm trying to just measure where the needle is to where the end of the presser foot is going. And for some reason, that did not seem easy. And the other thing I realized as I was lowering my presser foot is when I have my fabric right up against the side of the foot, it moves a little. Now, the foot isn't all the way down yet, but I would imagine if I have the fabric up against the end of the foot and I'm kind of pushing it and I bring the foot down, that the foot might stay down, like stay in that position instead of more of the straight position. So when I realized that, I was incredibly thoughtful the entire time I was sewing to like check the placement of my foot as I was bringing it down, and also where the fabric was, and to just be very, very thoughtful about that placement. I'm lucky I have a machine that also has a placement for the needle where it'll meet. I have a 1/4 inch foot, and it will move the needle over to the 1/4 inch position for me. And so I just had to remember to continue doing that. But I also checked the seam on a lot of these squares. That was time consuming, but I had the ability to easily do it. And so I did. I just kind of wanted to make sure that I was actually achieving the seam allowance that I wanted to get for this particular square. And I'm sure in time, this process is much faster for someone who's an experienced sewist, quilter. But I literally have only done this just once. And I showed you that patch, that block. So I was at a repeat. I was repeating on this day. I also wanted to mention, for anyone that's new here, I am always doing voiceovers on my videos because I have three little ones, and they are constantly in and out of my space because I share space with the Lego room and the Peloton and some of the other office equipment. And so it's just and the books, like all of our children's books, are in this space. And so they are coming in and out constantly. I also wanted to mention, this is Autism Awareness Month, the month of April, and I am the parent to two wonderful autistic little boys. I love them very, very much. And I've enjoyed them watching me learn how to sew and quilt. Sometimes they will just come sit next to me and they'll watch the machine. I have a little magnifier that I just turn to where they sit, because they sit to the side of the machine, and they will they like to watch the machine go. And sometimes they just like to watch me quilt on my other project, and they like to feel the fabric. And so I'm thinking of trying to make something with different textures for them in the future. But at any rate, this has been something great to share with them, and for them to be able to watch me do. So I finally bought some, I think they call this Taylor's chalk, and I have it in like 4 different colors. I just bought a pack of it. And you draw a line from one end to the next. As you can see me, you're making an X. And then you're going to eventually pull the 2 pieces of fabric away from each other, and you're going to cut out the triangles. Would usually end up with 4 triangles. And then you spread that open, like you bloom it, if you will, and then you're going to need to iron that, and then you basically start the process all over again. So I'll just let you watch me do that. You can fast forward if you would like, but sometimes I know for myself, I enjoy watching just the very, people just work like minute by minute, second by second, because I also think that there are nuanced things that we do when we are crafting or working, and when we're teaching somebody how to do something that we do as second nature and maybe don't even think about it. And so I think sometimes it's helpful to be able to watch everything that someone is doing, so that so that you can kind of see, to maybe give me some advice about what I'm doing to improve my technique, or B, maybe there's something that you pick up on that I'm doing that maybe I don't mention, and you think, oh, but she's using this or she's doing that, and I think that would be kind of helpful for me. I'm going to do that too. So just stick with this, keep watching, fast forward, and then I'll jump back in here in a few minutes. Okay, so if you made it this far, you see that we are opening up the square. We're blooming the square open, and I'm like kind of checking. I know that the little iron here, those should be green to tell you it's reached the appropriate temperature, but I felt like it was warm enough, so I started ironing that fabric. And I remembered I had my little clapper, and so we are going to utilize the clapper for this block. And I just think, even if you're like, I don't really know if that's necessary for this particular project, I just want to start developing some better habits, and I feel like getting in the habit of using it for my projects just makes sense. So it might have been overkill for this project, but I figured, what the hell, we're just gonna use it. And I'm kind of, being very careful to make sure that the triangle is nice and flat, and the seam is opened where it is appropriate. And I'm also trying not to burn myself, which has already happened. I do have a big iron, and I convinced myself that I wasn't going to buy a little iron at all. And then I realized that some of the projects I want to work on in the future, a smaller iron that can kind of get into the nooks and crannies of the fabric, it just makes sense. Is it something that you have to have at the beginning of your journey? Certainly not. But I had an opportunity to get one, and so I did. So I'm kind of looking at / admiring my work here. And I've already done the other squares. And so the next thing you have to do once you have your first bloom, if you will, is you've got to get rid of those little hangover pieces there. And I tried several different techniques, really whatever you want to do, whatever works for you. In this video, I'm doing all kind of goofy things. When honestly, I think at the end of the day, you probably could just fold down the ends even before you iron, probably, and just cut that off. I probably made it harder on myself than what it had to be. And if you've been watching any of my videos, you've also watched me struggling with the 28 rotary blade. I have finally changed my rotary blade. So for future projects, I'm working with a sharper blade. But I kind of think that this was the wrong blade for this particular project anyway, because this blade, my experience and what I was told is that it's really only good for going through like single layer. And I'm obviously cutting through 2 layers of fabric at this point. And so I think it's partially my inability to use a rotary well. And I think some of my poor cutting with this blade is also, I'm trying to make it go through more fabric than what it's really good for. And I also probably just needed a new blade. Although I see that it's doing pretty well here. So I'm trying to, I used the like add a quarter ruler because I was trying to keep in mind that for the next step, I wanted to be careful not to cut off or trim down the sides of the triangles too much, because you are going to base the next square that you're going to cut out on the size of your new square. And your new square is going to be everything bloomed open on the first square. Again, just stick with the video and you'll see. So here we are. We're getting ready to cut this square out. If you decide to watch this entire video, you are going to see that I ended up cutting all of my squares using different techniques because I was trying to figure out how, I've not done this before. Like, I did it one time the day before, but now I'm doing it again, and I'm trying to apply like good habits, and I'm just trying to figure out how I like to cut out these squares. And so I'm trying different things. So you're going to see me use different rulers. You're going to see me turning the mat. Sometimes you're going to see me turning the fabric. Sometimes you're going to see me just use scissors. And this is really just you watching me brainstorm through this process to figure out how I like to do this. So if you want to try this, if you go look this technique up on YouTube, I think you can just type in blooming square and or type in quick blooming square. I think some people call it a lazy blooming square, a cheating blooming square. So you just try some different things to find some other videos. I'll hopefully be able to drop one down in the description for you to look at. You can do it one of the ways you see me doing it, or you can do it one of the ways you see in a video from a different person who's creating this square, or you may have a better way altogether. If you do, please share it. But I was just trying to also learn to use my different rulers and stuff like that. And so I was pulling out everything for this particular project to figure out what would be the best way to get my second square cut as accurately as possible. I do know I've watched a video where a woman is not cutting her second square at all. She just lays her first square on the fabric and sews that square to her fabric with a 1/4 inch seam allowance, and then cuts it out that way. And that might be fine too. I had already done this when I saw that video. All right, so I'm going to be quiet and let you kind of watch me struggle / succeed here. And then I'll come back in when we get to a different part. I also wanted to jump in here and mention that I'm having a bit of a love-hate relationship with pens right now. And I really understand why there are so many different types of pens on the market. I didn't understand that at first. I was like, there's pens with flat heads, pens that are heat resistant, pens with longer tops than others. And one of the things that I have had happen to me on more than one occasion now that I am trying to use pens is in the grooves of my sewing machine. My pens have been getting stuck. Sometimes it'll catch on, anywhere where there's like a bit of sink or a groove. The pen will get stuck. And it's also not always easy for me to pull the pen out. And I don't know if that's the way I'm penning or if that's just, in time, I will learn how to do that more with a level of smoothness that I just simply do not have right now. So I did see a video where someone put washi tape. You see this big groove here right in front of my plate. They put washi tape along that line on the front, and then I have another groove like that on the back side to at least make that a smoother feed when they have pins and they're sending their fabric through. So that's a thought. I actually have a ton of washi tape. I don't know why I have so much washi tape, but I do. And so that's a possibility for kind of helping. But I'm just going to continue practicing because that's what this is about, right? Like we're learning how to sew, we're learning how to quilt. And some of these tools that we use, some of it is just you need to practice using this tool more and more. And you'll either discover that for this particular type of pen, maybe this isn't the right project for it. Maybe I should get some pens that have like flatter heads, or maybe I don't need pens for this project. But I feel like for this type of project, pens are actually very helpful. So I think it's a matter of figuring out maybe where to pin. Like maybe I'm not pinning in a great spot, and that could also be an issue. So just a thought I wanted to just brain dump on how I feel about pens at this point. Okay, so I've completed one block, and then I had, I think, like two more to do at this point. And again, I'm just kind of showing the block I did the day before, and then the block that I just completed. What I will say about these, I can totally get why people would do like maybe a pot holder, or you can make these as big as you want. You can start your center square much bigger, and so you're blooming different size squares for maybe like a small pillow or something like that. I did try to join these together, and I understand that the ends, it didn't look great, all three of them sewn together, but it did, each individual block, I thought, for it to be something that I was new at doing, I thought each one of my blocks looked good individually and could be like, little small pot holders, or you could put a little batting in and make like a single block miniature quilt, and use that for like I don't know, decoration of some sort. But I did find that when I stitched them all together, they didn't look as great. So maybe in the future I'll do another block like this, but make it bigger, and maybe I'll do something cool like a small little pillow or something like that for decoration. Well, thank you for sticking around this long and watching me learn how to sew, how to, do quilting. I hope that, anyone that stumbles onto this page, if you want to try to learn how to sew, make these blocks and quilt, I just want you to feel inspired to jump in there and try, right? I am literally not doing this for a grade, but I would like to do a good job. And if anybody has any questions, comments, suggestions, please send a message, like leave it down in the comment section, and just know that I'm here to grow and to learn and to think out loud. And I really appreciate all the people that have even looked at what I was doing, curious about what I was doing. That's been awesome. So thank you, and I hope everyone has a good day.